Amidst a volatile battlefield, the Ukrainian Navy's 36th Marine Brigade UAV team launched its most aggressive air operation in days. New footage shows a series of high-precision FPV strikes hitting Russian infantry, tactical vehicles, artillery positions, and even enemy drone operator shelters, all in rapid succession and deadly fashion. The attack began when aerial reconnaissance captured Russian infantry attempting to infiltrate the front lines. Without waiting for them to regroup, the FPV unit immediately deployed, its drones cruising at a low speed through debris and smoke before striking the enemy group and disrupting their maneuver. Shortly afterward, the next target appeared, a Russian vehicle speeding toward the battle point. A driver fell and attempted to hide among the wreckage, but a Ukrainian FPV drone pursued him with a sharp trajectory and struck him squarely in the side, rendering it inoperable. The tension escalated when reconnaissance spotted Russian soldiers marching across open terrain. Two FPV drones were launched minutes apart, one as a trailblazer, one as a final blow. Precision explosions brought the enemy forces to a complete standstill, and they were hunted down one by one in the sector. The most significant moment in the footage is when Ukrainian air intelligence identified the Russian drone operator's hideout, a vital target typically very difficult to locate due to its concealment and frequent movement. However, this time, the shelter was detected by heat emissions and small movements around the outpost, and the UAV team immediately prepared for a close-range FPV attack. With a precision maneuver nearly impossible without years of experience, the FPV drone darted into the narrow gap between two protective walls and struck their center point. The attack not only disabled the Russian drone operators, but also cut off their aerial eyes and ears in the sector, giving Ukrainian forces a significant advantage. This series of coordinated attacks once again demonstrated Ukraine's superiority in modern drone warfare, the ability of the 36th Marine Brigade's UAV operators to combine real-time reconnaissance with precision strikes, and the effectiveness of FPV drones as a decisive element in destroying enemy infantry, vehicles, artillery, and even UAV units. This operation not only halted the advance of Russian forces, but also emphasized that the close-in airspace is now a battle space, completely dominated by Ukrainian UAV teams, particularly the 36th Marine Brigade. While from the Kupansk direction, now Ukraine's newly formed Joint Forces Group is counterattacking from four directions to encircle them instead. Here, Russian forces tried to break into Kupansk and fully secure it to achieve the Kremlin's political objective. Unexpectedly for Russians, the Ukrainians are now the ones pushing to slice the Russian grouping in half and encircle them in the city instead. Brutal urban fighting in Kupansk is going on day and night from street to street as the Russians are storming the city. Heavy bombardments light up the night as Russians try desperately to dislodge Ukrainian defenders. Sergei Kuzovlev, commander of the Western Troop Grouping, recently informed Putin that Russian forces had completed the liberation of Kupansk after months of intense fighting. However, in reality, this is merely the extent of their infiltration tactics, as their actual area of control is much narrower and more unstable, as only small Russian infantry pockets are operating in the city. This indicates that their consolidated territorial gains amount to roughly 30% of the town, with the area west of the Oskil River remaining a large gray zone due to continuous engagements between Russian infiltrators and Ukrainian defenders. Russian disadvantages in Kupiansk are twofold. Firstly, Logistics are difficult to maintain because supplies need to be transported over the Oskil River while Ukrainian drones are constantly surveilling the crossings. Secondly, after Russia established a bridgehead on the right bank of the river, they advanced too narrowly into Kupiansk with only small infiltration groups and too few reserves, making their gains unstable. As a result, Russian forces have exhausted their forward momentum and over the past 2 months have managed only to consolidate their hold on a small number of newly captured streets. In order to mitigate the risk of Kupiansk being fully seized and Ukrainian forces east of the Oskil River becoming isolated, the Ukrainian command has established the Joint Forces Group under the leadership of Major General Mikhailo Drapati. In the ranks of this new corps, Ukraine has its most combat-ready and motivated fighters, whose task is to clear the city. Ukraine's strategy emphasizes agility and attrition to hold the line. That is why they launch localized counterattacks to push back the Russians and expand the gray zone, disallowing the attackers to dig in inside Kupiansk. Four-axis operation targets Russian strongholds. Firstly, an operation is currently underway to eliminate Russian strongholds in the northern part of the city. Here, the goal is to take these positions back, as these are now cut off from their main supplies and reinforcements, and liberating them would allow the Ukrainians to completely cut the Russian logistics and further inflow of troops into Kupiansk. Secondly, Ukrainian Special Forces raids on the river's eastern bank are identifying Russian staging areas and relaying the information to the Air Force to strike them. At the same time, this further degrades their logistics and limits the number of troops able to move across, thereby diminishing their capacity to dislodge the newly established Ukrainian positions. Thirdly, Ukrainian forces also conduct assault operations in the southwestern and southern parts of Kupiansk. They aim to regain control here by clearing those groups to concentrate the remaining Russians in the north and prevent them from infiltrating deeper, while also shortening the line of contact, and high ground provides decisive advantage to Ukrainian. Taking a look at the topographic map shows that the clearing operation is supported by Ukrainian soldiers and drone operators located on the heights southwest of the city. This hill ridge provides observation points, improved fields of fire, and better signal propagation for the drones, allowing the assault groups in the south to advance with direct and much stronger combat support than the Russians. These attacks aim to encircle the Russians from 4 directions at the same time, cutting supplies and stopping more Russian troops from infiltrating into the city before clearing them out completely. Overall, Russian claims of complete encirclement and full control over Kupiansk are overly exaggerated and don't resemble the situation on the ground. Despite Russian announcements, most of the city remains in the gray zone, as Russians are unable to bring in a sufficient number of forces and consolidate their gains. Ukraine will not halt its counteroffensive operations because the strategic value of Kupiansk is great, and the loss of the city would pose a threat to the defenders